Bloodthirsty steel, the cursed blade that made samurai go berserk and maybe killed a shogun. There are swords, and then there are swords, with a capital S. The kind you don't just hang on a wall but whisper about in terrified reverence, preferably while drunk. Enter the Muramasa blade, a weapon so sharp it allegedly sliced through destines and kneecaps with equal ease. Forged by a man who may or may not have had a few screws loose and possibly worshipped death over dinner. These blades have been blamed for everything from accidental seppuku to full-blown political purges. You think your ex was toxic? Wait till you hear what this sword did to the Tokugawa clan. The smith with a mean temper and a sharper blade. Legend tells of Sango Muramasa, a swordsmith of the Muromachi period around the 1500s, whose blades were so keen they could slice through silk in midair, and, on a bad day, your cousin's forearm. Muramasa was said to be brilliant, and, perhaps, just a touch unhinged. According to folklore, he infused each blade with his violent temperament, basically forging rage into metal like Gordon Ramsay infuses anger into risotto. These weren't your run-of-the-mill katana, they were you too. Demon swords. And unlike Masamune's philosophical, pacifist blades, more on that frenemy later, Muramasa's creations weren't exactly into conflict resolution, they were into conflict escalation. If a Muramasa blade were a person, it'd be that one guy at the bar yelling, "You lookin' at me?" at a brick wall. But was the swordsmith truly mad? Or was it the world that went insane trying to control his legacy? Spoiler, it's both, but hang tight. The blade that bit its master several times. One of the more horrifyingly hilarious aspects of the Muramasa blade's lore, its tendency to turn on its owner. Samurai who carried these blades were said to go berserk, sometimes slicing enemies in half in a single strike, and sometimes, well, themselves, or their friends, or the nearest innocent melon vendor. You never really knew with Muramasa steel, it had a stab first, ask questions never attitude, and the crown jewel of cursed clients, none other than Tokugawa Ieyasu, the eventual shogun of Japan and all-around big deal in the 1600s. His family's interactions with Muramasa blades read like a soap opera written by Quentin Tarantino. His grandfather, assassinated with a Muramasa. His father, stabbed with a Muramasa. His son, Nobuyasu, forced to commit seppuku and decapitated with a Muramasa. Ieyasu himself cut his own hand with a Muramasa. At some point, you'd think he'd switch to another brand. Maybe a nice Masamune, but no, in a twist of historical irony, it was too late. The blade's blood trail had already soaked too deep into the Tokugawa saga. And what did Ieyasu do next? Oh, just you wait. Banned, burned, and buried, the shogun strikes back. After presumably exhausting his supply of bandages and patience, Tokugawa Ieyasu finally had enough. He didn't just stop using Muramasa blades, he went full cancel culture on them, banning the swords across Japan. Like an ancient Japanese version of blacklisting a toxic influencer, he ordered all Muramasa swords confiscated, destroyed, or defaced. Signatures were chiseled off, heirs were forced to hide or disown them. Owning one became dangerous, like carrying a loaded revolver made of angry ghosts. Of course, this only increased the allure, because if history has taught us anything, it's this: nothing becomes cooler faster than something forbidden. Owning a Muramasa blade was no longer just about having a good sword, it was a middle finger to the shogunate. Samurai began hiding them, smuggling them, whispering about them in safe houses. The Muramasa blade became the katana equivalent of contraband pornography, dangerous, secret, and guaranteed to get you in trouble with the government. Or worse, but this pen didn't kill the legend, it made it immortal. And here's where it gets weird. The blade that refused to die and probably had its own PR agent. Centuries after Muramasa's death, the blades refused to fade into obscurity. They popped up in kabuki theater, ghost stories, and even propaganda. The line between fact and fiction blurred like ink in a rainstorm. One popular tale pits Muramasa against his eternal rival, Masamune, another master swordsmith. The story goes like this: they each forged a blade and tested them in a river. Muramasa's blade sliced through everything: fish, leaves, the current itself. Masamune's, by contrast, only parted the water gently, sparing leaves and fish alike. The lesson: Muramasa's blade was deadly. Masamune's was enlightened. Weirdly, no one mentions that in an actual war, you probably want the one that kills fish. But this wasn't about practicality, it was about the morality of steel. Masamune became the saint, Muramasa became the demon. And demons, my friend, never go out of style. Blood on the blade, coincidence or curse? Historians, being the buzzkills they are, argue that the so-called curse was just bad luck and political spin. After all, plenty of Muramasa blades were owned and used without tragedy. In fact, they were considered high-quality weapons. Sharp, balanced, reliable, the Toyota Hilux of Katana. But try telling that to the samurai who accidentally sliced their own toe during a duel. Or the one who will swear to the gods, hallucinated voices coming from his Muramasa blade, urging him to murder his lord. Whether it was trauma, madness, or a really bad hangover, the story stuck. In the centuries that followed, the curse only grew. Muramasa blades were said to drive their wielders into frenzies, like a murderous caffeine overdose in steel form. Some even claimed the blades moved on their own, hungry for blood. Which raises the obvious question: if you met one today, would you pick it up? Swords, spirits, and sake, Muramasa in modern culture. You'd think the legend would fade, but Muramasa, like any self-respecting supernatural entity, has aged incredibly well. Today, you'll find Muramasa blades in anime, video games, manga, and even Marvel Comics, where one version is wielded by Wolverine, because of course it is. In those stories, it's not just cursed, it's nearly omnipotent, capable of cutting souls or slicing through reality like butter. Even the name Muramasa now carries a vibe: bloodlust, rebellion, tragedy. It's emo metal in sword form. If it had a Spotify playlist, it would feature nothing but 9-inch nails and Japanese temple drums. Collectors pay top dollar for surviving blades, which are rare, gorgeous, and probably only mildly haunted. Museums like the Tokyo Tauken Museum sometimes display Muramasa swords, where they sit quietly in glass cases, possibly plotting. But don't tap the glass, you might wake something up. The blade in the shadows. Did Muramasa know what he created? We've come full circle. Was Muramasa a genius gone mad? Or a genius because he went mad? Did he really pour his rage into the metal? Or did future generations project their fears onto the blade? We may never know, but the legend lives. Every time a samurai story is told, every time a cursed sword shows up in a tale of vengeance or downfall, Muramasa's name is in the DNA. His blades were more than tools, they were catalysts. For war, for betrayal, for history itself. And maybe, just maybe, there's still one out there, in a hidden dojo, in a dusty attic, in a collector's secret room, humming faintly in the dark, waiting. If you're ever offered a Muramasa blade, say, at a flea market or in a mysterious box labeled "Do Not Open," do what any self-respecting character in a horror movie doesn't do: walk away, or don't. But if you do draw it, just remember, it draws something back. Think you've seen cursed blades before? Hit like if this tale sliced through your expectations. Subscribe for more dark legends, deadly artifacts, and stories they never taught you in history class. Got a theory or a cursed sword of your own? Drop it in the comments, we read everything. Even the haunted stuff.